Hi folks, hello and welcome back to another video right here on the channel. So, last month I covered my personal top 10 ZX Spectrum games. What would the retro series, certainly surrounding 8-bit computers, be without a Commodore 64 top 10? Okay, so the 64 was a strange computer for me. I started school, and we're talking now like the early 80s, and I had a ZX Spectrum. Okay, so a term year banded around quite a lot is the Playground Wars. So you either had the Spectrum or you had the Commodore 64. There were a couple of kids with like VIC-20s and things like that, but Spectrum or 64. I was a Spectrum kid. So being a teenager as well, I had very little respect for the Commodore 64. I hung around with all my specky mates, and that was the only conversation. Crash Magazine and all the new games. Anyway, I can hear you Commodore fans screaming, shut up about the specky. Okay, so I'm going to take that hat off, put this one on. So, probably circa 83, early 84. And a friend of mine at school, Carl, he had the Commodore 64. And I got fed up of listening to it. Yada, yada, yada. This game, that game, the other game. So, as was the way, back in your teeny days, went round town on a Saturday, etc. And I stayed over his house. And, you know, he couldn't wait to throw the Commodore 64 on and blow me away. And it did, to be fair, it did. Maybe about 12 months later, having like every weekend round at his house, playing on like all manner of classics, which I'm going to mention like in the top 10 in a minute, I, shock horror, got rid of my specky and I jumped over to the 64 for a couple of years. I swapped Crash Magazine for Zap 64 magazine. And I played some of these games that are in this top 10 now. So listen, kick back, grab a brew, and let's go back down nostalgia lane. Okay, so number 10, and the first one on the list is Hunchback. I loved this game. I think it was the first game I played at Carl's. It was just a simple platformer, but at the time the graphics were great, and I just loved it. I think there was like 4 levels, and it just kept on wrapping round and round and round until you got through or you lost your lives. Probably my earliest Commodore 64 memory. Number 9 sees the amazing Boulderdash. This game was great. I'd played nothing like it before on my specky. You had like a little man and you were like running around in like a mine, and you had to like avoid the falling rocks, and you had to pick up like gems and get to the end of the level. It was great. It was great. You know, it was one of them where you had to really think about it, because you might see a gem and you'd run along, but could you actually navigate the rocks? You know, many times you'd run around, you think you got it, and you're just a second short of that joystick pull left or right, and that rock will come down crashing on your head. Great times. Number 8, Daley Thompson's Decathlon. This probably killed more joysticks than anything else. And I'm talking about killed, I'm talking about breaking joysticks. Daley Thompson was an athlete at the time. I think it was the 84 Olympics in Los Angeles, if memory serves me right. And yeah, so Daley was a big thing. The Decathlon is, I think it's like a 2-day event where they have like 5 events each day. So you have like, the game itself covered all of them. So you had like sort of 100 metres and javelin and discus and long jump and all that kind of stuff. And basically the main control system on this was you'd waggle a joystick left to right as fast as you could. Hence the damage and broken joysticks. Carl and I smashed many of them. Number 7, Barbarian. Okay, this was great. This was like a one-on-one like arena fighter, 2-dimensional. It's probably known best for, back in the day, the cover poster, which was a bit naughty. There was a Barbarian, and I think he turned out to be the wolf on Gladiators. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. And there's Maria Whittaker, who was a page 3 model at the time, and very pretty girl. And they combined this for the poster, and you know, as like, you know, a young lad, it was quite an erotic poster, I suppose. A scantily clad lady and all that. Anyway, but back to the game. So yeah, it was like one of those where you had 8 directions and a joystick. So I think you probably have about 16 moves, and you'd have a sword. And I think it's probably best known for the gore at the time, where there was one move. I think you sort of stand up, you swing the axe or your sword right round 360 degrees. And if you timed it right, you'd actually behead your opponent, and like the head would fall off, and like this little goblin would come along and he'd kick the head off, and it was, yeah. It was good. It was a really good game. One of my favourite fighters of the day. Number 6, Emlyn Hughes Soccer. Emlyn Hughes was my nan's favourite football player. Just a little, you know, trivia fact in there as soon as we're going retro. Obviously a Liverpool player. I'm an Everton fan, but that's by the by. The game was great. I think there's international soccer on a Commodore 64 first, which came on a cartridge, and Emlyn Hughes seemed to be the spiritual successor to that 2D side-on football game. But what I loved about it was the first game where I actually got, and you could edit the teams. I mean, back in the day, you'd save your games on like tape and stuff like that, so you could imagine the fun. But what you'd do is I used to play like a league with like Carl and my mates, and we'd sort of edit all the players out, and we keep all the bookkeeping, and we'd run little leagues. And I've got like a lot of time for this game, honestly. It probably won't hold up now, you know, not like I had the choice of this or Microprose Soccer. Microprose Soccer was a top-down game, and it was fantastic, to be honest. But just because of the sheer fun that we had on Emlyn Hughes, that's why it pips Microprose Soccer in this spot. Number 5, Uridium. There just wasn't a shooter like this game at the time. It was absolutely beautiful. Commodore 64, known for its like parallax scrolling and stuff, and the music was spot on, the gameplay was spot on. It was hard as nails, no question about it. You had to go left and right, and you're flying over like sort of space stations and stuff like that. You get to like the end of a level, and there'd be like a next level coming, and I think at my best I got about 2 or 3 levels in. Hard game, but hey, they were all hard, they were all proper games back in the day, weren't they? Uridium, fantastic shooter. Number 4, Paradroid. Another one that there was nothing like it around. You were this little droid on a space station, and you started off like lower level, and you had to go around, and you had to either destroy the other droids on the floor on your level, or there was like a little mini game where you could try and kind of mind melt with them, and you had to sort of swap electronics, I think it was, round to try and match. And if you'd done it, then you take over. So you start off like a lower level droid, and you can sort of like defeat a higher level droid, and you then basically take on their persona. And I never completed this one, but it was one of them where you just sit there and it was almost zen-like. You know, it had that kind of quality about it. Not a lot going on until something goes on. Really, really fantastic game. If you can, check it out on an emulator now. You know, it really is that good. Number 3, Impossible Mission. Again, this was fantastic. Probably best known for its digital speech at the beginning of the level. You're like a super spy. Think kind of James Bond. And you went into this villain's base, and you had to, every screen was sort of full of robots, and there was like sort of desks and sort of little cupboards, and I think you had to push up and press a button. You were basically searching, I mean, you're looking for pieces, if I'm not mistaken, of like a puzzle. And if you got so many of them, you had to arrange them, and the idea was like, I'm not sure, to be totally honest now, what you had to do with them. But it was one of those games, and it was only, like, animation was amazing. Do like a sort of somersault, backwards and forwards, flips, and it just, even now, the game holds up. I was playing it recently on my C64 Mini. It's a really, really good game, and it shows the innovative quality on the 64, as well as some of the games that were on the Spectrum at the time. It really was a great time to be a gamer. Number 2, Commando. This was a fantastic game. I struggled with it because it was either Commando or it was Rambo in this slot. And Commando got it for me, quite simply because it was a perfect arcade conversion. The music is spot on, the gameplay is great. You're a Commando and you're running up through enemy territory, and you're going basically from the bottom to the top, and there's like tanks, there's soldiers shooting you, throwing grenades at you. You get to the top and there's like a little gateway where all these soldiers comes out, and it's completely mad. It really is. It's an absolutely fantastic arcade conversion. One of the very, very, very best games the Commodore 64 ever had. And talking about best games leads me to my number 1, okay? And it was a clear choice, absolutely clear choice. International Karate Plus. This was amazing. Over on the Specky, and I think there's a port on the Commodore as well, we had Exploding Fist, and that was like a one-on-one karate game. This offered a third player, so you were playing against 2 computer opponents, and it was like a free-for-all. You're just trying to like beat the other 2 guys, and you'd beat them if you were successful, and then you go on to like a little mini game where there's like sort of little bouncing balls or bouncing bombs or stuff like that you have to kind of deflect and get points, and then go back round, and then you go back onto the combat again. And it was brilliant. There's just nothing like it. The music was amazing, the graphics are absolutely lovely, so fluid, the animation at the time. I couldn't have put any other game at number 1. Okay guys, so I hope you enjoyed that little run by of my top 10 favourite Commodore 64 games. As I say, there's a lot in there that like would be sort of industry standard, but they're my own personal top 10, and hopefully a couple of little memories that I shared in there may put a smile on your face. Okay, so that is it for the retro content for this month. Be sure to tune in next month where I do the same again, but with the Nintendo Entertainment System. Okay, before I go, if you like your retro stuff, if you're new here, hit that subscribe button, like, share, and more importantly, leave me a comment below. To any of you existing guys who keep coming back month after month, heartfelt thanks. Leave me your comments below, folks. Tell me, did you have a Commodore 64? Did you not? Were you a specky man, lady, etc.? If you did play the 64, how did you start? Did you come over like I did, or did you arrive and get like a Commodore 64 for Christmas one year? Let me know your favourite games. Do you play it now on emulation? If you do, good luck. It's one of the hardest machines on a PC to emulate. If you know how you do it, hit me below, okay, because I have tried over the years. I play my 64 games these days on my Commodore 64 Mini. Anyway, guys, keep it retro, and I'll see you all next month.